It's your boy Deontay the Bronze from Milwaukee.
What's up, guys? This is Uriah Faber.
What's up, guys? Stephen One Boy Thompson.
It's the IBA champion, Rose Pedro.
Cynthia Calvio.
Hi, this is Michaela Mayer.
Montana and Mark, the De La Rosas.
This is Daniel Miracle Man Jacob. Shout out to Kendrick and Matt.
And you're listening to the Slip and Dip podcast.
And you're listening
With your boy Kendrick and Matt.
And you're listening to Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
What is up, people? Welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast. This is episode number 45, coming at you on a Sunday evening on the heels of UFC London. Middle of March Madness. Everybody's getting mad, going mad. One seed's falling like crazy. Man, a lot of stuff going on in the NCAA tournament. We could do a whole podcast just on that and all this madness going on. But there was some madness going on in London too. A little bit of that. But Kendrick, we'll touch on that very briefly before we get into it. How you doing over there tonight, man?
Doing good, man. Enjoying the madness. I did a bracket. I got Villanova to win. That's kind of my honorary pick since I did commit to them back in the day. It was a fun time.
Okay. Hey, not mad at it. Not mad at it at all. My bracket's like completely jacked up. It was after day one. Now I think I have like two left in my main, quote unquote, main bracket. I have two of my final four left. But you know, it is what it is. I'm not losing any sleep over it. It's all crapshoot anyways. Yeah, it's just a ritual. It's not like I actually expect to get a perfect bracket. You know, it's just part of the deal. You got to do it to go along with it. But this episode, guys, we have two great guests for you guys. First up, we'll have Max Payne Griffin, UFC welterweight, climbing the ranks, climbing the ladder. He talks about his transition to a full-time fighter, waiting on that new contract, and when we can expect him back in the octagon. And then, of course, following that is one of a very good friend of the show, third time, I believe, on the show, Mr. Stephen the War Master, Stephen the Warman Wright, Steve the Warman, at Steve the Warman on Twitter. He drops all sorts of knowledge about everything, super technical, being a striking coach at one of the highest levels of the fight game. I mean, his knowledge is very vast, and obviously you guys hear that. If you haven't listened to Steve on the podcast before, go check out those episodes. Episode 35, I think, was the last time we had him on, as I'm looking at. Yep, episode 35, and we had him and Dan Tom on for the final show of 2017. So that was a fun episode, and this is a fun one too, to pick his brain on all sorts of knowledge. And he definitely lays it out there for us. So, but yeah, let's touch on that real quick. UFC London. My quick takeaways. I know you didn't watch the card, Kendrick. I know you're a busy man doing some stuffs, but I will give the people out there a couple of my quick bullet points. Fabricio Verdum looked every bit of his age on this fight card, man. It wasn't a good performance for him. Obviously got finished in the fifth round. Got finished. And he looked good at points. Like he had moments of the old Fabricio that we all knew. And then it just like other moments he looked completely gassed. I was like sitting there watching the fight. I was like, this is the guy that boxed up Cain Velasquez. You know, I don't know what's happening here, but I'm glad that there's a new fresh face climbing the ranks in Alexander Volkov in the heavyweight division. So there'll be some good matchups there. New fresh matchups we can see at the top of the division there. Hell of a fight of the night for Jimmy Manuwa and Jan Blachowicz. The first fight was terrible, and this one was the exact opposite of that. It was extremely entertaining from start to finish. So if you haven't seen that fight, guys, go back and check that out. A couple of other key moments real quick that kind of caught my eye. Charles Bird, DFW, Fortis MMA Products, getting it done, first round submission, holding down for the DFW all the way across the pond in London.
Get that be the norm, man. Hopefully make that be the norm.
Yeah. And Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts with a vicious, that was one of the most flush KO punches I've seen in a very long time. And shout out to Danny, he's a good dude. So good on him to get that first round knockout as well. And two crazy moments though, two crazy other moments, and then we'll get right into it because we got a long one for you guys today with Max and Steve. But
I didn't tell you this. Your boy officially be at 223. Got my reservations to be.
Okay. Nice.
On the scene. doing my thing, got exclusives. I can't even talk about the company.
Yeah.
Pretty big company. You know the company. These people gonna find out.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited for you. That's 223, man.
It's only 2 weeks away.
Yeah, it's creeping up quick.
Well, I think 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks?
3 weeks, I believe. I don't have the schedule up or
Yeah,
the calendar up.
in 2 weeks, on the boxing scene, this was mainly an MMA podcast.
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker. If you're a real boxing fan, you gotta watch. Y'all talked about Deontay. He got that hand raised in that KO. Let's see what Mr. Joshua gonna do. I hope he don't F it up. Cause I want to see that Deontay and that Anthony Joshua fight anywhere in North America. I will be there, getting the check and doing my thing.
Okay. Hey.
Ready for that fight.
I'm right there.
But he gotta win though.
Yeah, you gotta get the hand raised. Gotta get the hand raised, but I'm ready to just see it signed, get it done. Let's give me a date. I'm ready for it. Yeah, man. Real quick, last 2 notes on this card. So we saw a record being broken early on the prelims. Latest stoppage in a 3-round fight ever. In a fight in which Paul Craig was he was down 2018. He was arguably in the midst of a 10-8 round where he wasn't doing anything, and then catches his opponent in a triangle, and his opponent taps with 1 second left. Crazy. Like, it was insane that he actually pulled that off. It was like shades of Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen, but there was literally 1 second left on the clock, and the guy would have walked away with 30-26 loss on his record. Possibly 30-26. Like, I was scoring that last round of 10-8 until he pulled off the Hail Mary, you know. And then, later on in the fight card, we get another finish with 1 second left. It's just madness all across London, man. It was a fun card. If you guys didn't watch it, definitely go check it out. Check out the highlights, the finishes. It was fun. But yeah, that's all I got. You ready to get in these interviews? I know we're trying to blitz through this intro so we can get you guys to these interviews because they were fun. Yeah, they were fun. It was good stuff. So Max Griffin, new friend of the show, he's gonna be up first for you guys, and followed by Steve the Warman Wright. Follow the show, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, at Slip and Dip Podcast up there on the screen. Kendrick Johnson at Kendrick Johnson at Kendrick Johnson on Twitter.
We'll keep the guests coming next week.
Yeah. Me, Mr. N. Wells Art on Twitter at Mr. N. Wells Art. Follow us on Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, if I remember to upload the clips there. And like, subscribe, give some comments. We appreciate some ratings on the iTunes as well. Helps grow the presence up
It's
there.
It's going up though.
It's going up.
It's not going down.
It's going up. We need some 5-star ratings. Give us some 5 stars. Give us some feedback, guys. Want to hear from you. Let us know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these interviews. And anything else before we get into it? Let's go.
Join us on the Slip and Dip Podcast. One of the fledgling welterweights in UFC, Mr. Max Griffin. Staying with our segment 2018. You ball, you get the call. Last time out, nobody except for the Slip and Dip Podcast, both me and Matt picked him to get that W. So now he getting that call. Thanks for joining the show, man. Congrats on that win.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Does it feel good to be on national TV, proving a lot of people wrong? Kind of like these fools in March Madness. You started in February, though.
Yeah, it was, there was a real few that thought I could pull it off. And it felt good to do it in front of the world like that, on that stage, man. It doesn't get any bigger than that, for me, anyway.
So what's your site? Oh, I'm sorry. What's your site set up on the next opponents? Who are they getting you, or you just trying to fight as much as possible, or you got a strategic plan about what you're doing?
I wanna get paid first. So I guess that's a strategic plan. I want to redo my contract, working on getting paid more. Signing some more fights. So we're definitely in talks with renegotiating. I just want to get something good because I'm going to be beating a lot of these good guys up. These top 10, top 15 guys up pretty soon here. So I want to get paid for it,
Yeah, man. So I think the biggest thing going into this last fight for you was that you became a full-time fighter, right? So you ready to dedicate a lot more time to the craft, and obviously the results showed. So, you still going that same route, man. How big of How big of a factor was that on that win against Mike Berry?
You know, I don't know if it was solely that, but to be able to fight full time, they say in your life you're supposed to do what you love, and I got pretty far trying to pick away at it, working part time. But now that I am full time, I mean, I don't know if you could just blame that solely on that, but I mean, the results show. I just felt so much calmer. I think the main thing is, my recovery time. I have time. Nothing's rushed. I'm allowed to be patient now because I am working full time, or fighting full time. I don't have to run here, run there. So I guess it carries on to everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that would be a thing. A lot of fighters wish they could do. I mean, there's so many guys, especially guys that are just coming through, that seem to have second jobs, and they have to do X, Y, and Z before they have to even have time to train. So I'd imagine that's going to be a huge benefit for your career in the immediate future, man.
No, for sure. I mean, I'm taking it serious. I'm not just doing it to be here. I'm doing it to take over everything. Yeah. So, I believe in my heart I'm making the right choice, and it's going to show. It's going to come together.
For sure. So, I mean, how happy were you with the way you performed that night against Mike Berry? I mean, obviously you got the win, but I mean, were you happy with it?
Yeah, I was. I wish I would have finished him. I want to finish all my opponents. But I heard him, busting him up real good. It was an interesting fight because he really did exactly what we thought he was going to do. He did it way, way worse, if that makes any sense. Seriously, we had some of my training partners trying to, pretend to, throw like him and emulate him and just different tendencies. And he was just exactly what we thought. So, it felt good to beat a name like that, honestly, especially, where the chips were down, to come away with a win like that. It felt great. And also, it wasn't an early knockout, so people can't say I was lucky. The fact that I beat him up for so long, I think you can't deny it.
Max, do you think people don't realize that you have evolved as a fighter since the Covington loss? And how much would you see him again?
I don't know. I mean, one of these days, I like Colby. I hope he's doing well. I know he's doing well in the rankings. I want him to be up there because I want the Rowan to, run that back in probably next year. Because we're going to be at the top.
When I throw out some names in the division, what do you think about people like a Kamaru Usman?
He's good. He's good. Was he number 10? All these guys are good. Honestly, to me, to even be talking about these guys and to be in the conversation and that's the future of mine. So to me, it's crazy. A lot of these guys. It's good. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to be up here like this and, like I said, be talking about these guys. These guys are all potential opponents and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean,
every one of them.
Who's next on your radar? Do you have anyone that you're trying to get in there with, or has it even been a discussion yet, or what's going on that front?
Not really. I know I know it's real static right now. A lot of the guys aren't fighting each other. Everyone's trying to kind of maintain their ranks, and a lot of guys don't have fights. Gunnar Nelson doesn't have anything right now. Pontezebia doesn't have anything right now. A lot of these Cerrone. A lot of these guys, they don't have anything. So I think pretty soon here, next few weeks, it's going to be a lot of movement, and they're going to start booking these fights.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of different ways I think the division can go right now. I mean, a lot of interesting matchups for sure, and I think there's a lot of matchups that we obviously haven't seen yet. Versus like a heavyweight division at the top where it's like, oh, we've seen that fight already. There's a lot of different ways that you guys can go, and I think this probably gonna be the best year for the division in a while, considering we'll see what happens when Tyron's come back, who he's gonna be fighting against. It's a lot of stuff to be interested in, man, in that 170 division for sure.
No, I like it. I think it's exciting. Like I said, there's a lot of guys that aren't fighting right now. Like a lot of guys don't have anything on the books. So I think we're gonna see some things shake up real soon here.
So you talk about you want to kind of redo your contract. Is that right? So like, how many fights do you have left on your current deal?
That was it.
That was the last one.
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm a free agent. I did, the 4-fight deal.
That's right.
And we finished that up. We finished on a good win with a little bit of momentum. So, I want to fight for the UFC. I want to be the best, and I want to beat these guys. So, I want to stay with them. I've been asked about free agency and whatnot, but I'm not interested. I mean, it's about money, but, I'm not just trying to run the Bellator or run anywhere.
Have they hit you up?
No, it's funny. We almost signed with them before the UFC, and it didn't work out, which is perfect. So, it was like a phone call was missed. It was something like that saved it.
Oh, wow.
So everything works out, man. Yeah, I was supposed to meet with what's that guy's name? The Asian guy. Yeah. And I think they were in. What was that? Europe? I want to say they were in England for a fight, so the time change is weird. And yeah, that's like the only reason that didn't work out. And the UFC happened pretty much right after that. So I'm staying with them, man. Staying with them.
I think it worked out pretty good for you, obviously.
Yeah.
But I was telling you, before the show, just a few minutes ago, that I spoke to you obviously that first night in your UFC at the media day, and one of the questions I asked you that was really relevant that weekend because of the press conference that they were having was around like the fighters unions and stuff, and you're kind of being a little. You weren't like standoffish, but you were like, "Hey, I'm just getting in the door, my man. Like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, But obviously, it's a hot topic again with this new movement going on. Have they reached out to you, the Project Spearhead guys? Have they tried to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I've seen some things, and it gets real tricky. Like I understand about the money. We should be paid more. But for me, I think the UFC is taking care of me right now. They're setting me up with good fights. I just got the bonus, fight before last. They just put me on Fox. I feel like I'm in their good graces right now, honestly. And, we'll see how this contract goes. But they've been taking care of me. It's not like I was here before when everything changed over with the sponsorship. How the money changed. I came right when it started. So I made, sponsorship money on the local level. But as far as I wasn't making 100,000, from Nike and this and that was all taken away. So to me, I'm still laying low on it. There has to be some kind of backlash. I think so. Honestly, like real shit, man. Yeah. You can't just be at a job where anyone works and talk about you hate your job to the boss and all this. I get it. I understand. But in real life too, there's there's certain ways, to go about things, and there's things you want to be attached to at the right time and not, it gets tricky, man, when you're talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm still, I come from like a corporate background. I know politics, man. It's politics. People don't think it is. Oh yeah, sign on the line and tell the UFC you hate them, and then still work for them and still want to get a good fight. Like, come on, I'm smarter than that.
Yeah.
Seriously though.
But do you think that for the long term that it's gonna have to happen for people to be able to get a fair shake from day one? Like you've knocked out a name now. You people know who you are. But what if you just Max Griffin, that brother from Sacramento that nobody know the hell about, and they say, well, you gotta prove yourself.
I don't know, man. I don't know how to answer that. It's like I don't know, man.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, obviously, I think the main concern for a lot of guys right now is, that retaliation, which is kind of weird. I mean, it's not weird. I completely understand it because, I'm in the corporate world myself. So it's like, I'm at the office, I understand the politics side of things, and especially in a world like that where it's like you got guys, performances and how well you deal with, like, hey, can you come, do this appearance and, be here this weekend and all that kind of stuff like that. It goes a long way with the company. So I get that side of it, but at the same time, there are a lot of different areas where you guys are treated as employees, but you aren't treated like an employee in a lot of different ways too. So it's just a weird spot, I think, for you guys.
No, I know. I think if it happens, I think everyone it's gonna happen to all of us at the same time. And I don't think we're really gonna have a choice. I don't think they could just be like, okay, well, half of you guys are gonna get paid more, half of you guys aren't. I think it's gonna have to be something when it gets enough momentum or whoever agrees. I don't think it's just gonna be some lawsuit thing where there's 10 of us that. Oh
yeah, we've seen a few efforts of that already.
I think everyone's. I don't think they could do it where there's 10 people that get paid more. I think if it happens, everyone would have to be. I don't know.
So Max, if you're downtown, are you do you watch the fights and watch other fights? Cause I laugh at some of these fighters saying they don't watch fights. Like, I like to think you want to see your competition.
I pay attention to the welterweight fights. If there's welterweights fight, if I try to watch the fights, but if I'm watching fights, it is welterweights, and I do spend a little more attention on all welterweights because, like I said, they're all competition. Every one of them. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all the other weight classes, but when I'm watching the 170s, it's homework.
So can I throw some names that you tell me how you stack up with them? So you would fight Wonder Boy. How would you combat him?
He's real long. I used to kind of have a style like that karate background, the point fighting kind of thing. I just have a little bit more power. So it would kind of be the same kind of thing. He's not used to guys fighting him like he fights other people. It would kind of be, I probably have to do more of that, get inside, and just land some power shots.
What about the champ himself, Tyron Woodley?
Tyron Woodley. We talking game plans or just in general?
Both.
He's shorter, and I know he doesn't have a lot of range, but he's a good wrestler. I'd have to have my coaches check some things out. But it's funny, we've been watching Tyrone for like 2 years. My coaches are like, man, watch him. That's who we watch. You watch the champions. That's who you got to beat. Right. That's who we study. We study everyone, but as far as what they're doing and who's on top, that's what we're aiming at.
And somebody like a Damon Maya with that crazy jiu-jitsu style.
Just still go on the ground, Just go on the ground. Someone like him, Kobe knows. Everyone knows. Woodley, how many shots did Woodley defend? Like 26?
Yeah.
Something like that. Something crazy. So he knows it doesn't take a fool. You don't go where they want you to go. Especially the only place that someone could beat you, that's where you don't want to be. Yeah,
that brings to my next question. We always talk about here, like a lot of people talk about balancing entertainment and winning. Why do people think that you have to entertain to win? Like, what is cool about getting hit in the head, or what is cool about getting submitted on national TV? I don't get it. Just to entertain the fans, you take a chance and you take an L, and then all those chances that you're trying to entertain don't care about you living back to the locker room, or you not getting a fight for 6 months.
No, I know. I feel like the entertaining got to go, it goes by itself. I don't feel like you need to do extra to try to entertain, Like LeBron, I bet he doesn't just try to entertain. He just trying to ball on them fools. Straight up. I'm about to say entertaining. He's just hooping, and someone just happens to think he be balling. So me, if I lay someone out or something, or, I'm going for something, I'm by no means trying to entertain. I'm trying to finish the fight.
But what you win? Are you cool winning the fight, being very boring stylistically, but knowing that you're gonna win, like just jabbing the shit out of somebody, and not that quote unquote entertaining, but getting your hand raised?
Nah, I want to win.
No. I'm saying, are you cool with just doing that? Just you get your hand raised, even though people might boo you, you get an easy decision, but you made it easy. You didn't take no punishment. You do a little jabbing. Yeah, you didn't get the finish or whatever, but you got an easy 30-27 decision.
What you talking about, you fans?
You just try to say, like, you know, how some guys, I guess, like Kendrick's big thing, like, on the show, like, you always talk about fighters going out there, doing what you have to do to get your hand raised, but not necessarily worrying about, like, a crowd reaction. Like, let's say if you're out there...
Like the Tyrant won the boy, too. Could you win a decision like that and be cool with it? Because a lot of these fighters seem like they don't get it. Like, they boo Tyron out the T-Mobile, but he's still the champion, even though it quote-unquote wasn't an entertaining fight. That's what I'm talking about.
It's about winning.
Yes.
It's about winning. To me, it's about winning.
Now you're speaking my language.
At the end of the day, it's about winning. It don't matter. It don't matter about shit except winning. And yeah, that's how I feel. If they say Tyron had the fight or Maya the way he did, like let's say that David Maya Woodley fight, you know, he did exactly what he needed to do to win that fight. You can't always do certain moves and shit on different people. You can't take certain risks. There's some things you need to do to win certain fights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what it's about. If this guy has, you know, the craziest kick ever, don't let him kick you. Right. You try to be entertaining and get kicked for the hell of it. You know what I mean? So, it's about winning. It's about winning.
So now you're speaking my language
first.
now.
Yeah, winning first.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, like, MMA fans, like, you know, especially the ones that are on social media, they're kind of funny because it's like they know a certain fighter has, like, this one clear-cut path to victory where it's like a Damian Maia, like, okay, you don't go to the ground with Damian Maia, obviously. Or, you know, you avoid, like, we're obviously using Tyron as an example here, but it's like, obviously you avoid Stevie Wonderboy's kicks. So it's like, if people get mad at fighters for, you know, taking away their strength, whereas, how about don't be so one-dimensional, you know what I mean? It's like, you gotta be well-rounded.
Yeah.
You gotta be well-rounded, right?
Yeah, people, and I don't think it's, you know, I think it's more fans saying that than fighters.
Right.
You know, a fighter's gonna know what he has to do to win, and that's what he's gonna try to do. If the fans don't like it, then that's, you know, it is what it is, man.
Yeah, it's on them, right? At the end of the day, I mean, you know, as a fighter though, like, I mean, what do you look for, like, outside of your division? Like you said, you watch the guys in the division, but outside of your division, like, is there anyone that, like, you particularly like watching because of their style, or is it just, you know, whatever's on with the other cards?
No one's even. I mean, my brain's dead right now. It's Sunday. If there's any, you know, just good matchups. You know, good matchups. I mean, you can name drop guys all day, and I'm sure they're entertaining. I, you know, appreciate their styles. No one pops out, but I like seeing good fights. I know it sounds vague, you know, but they, you know, good matchups, close fights. That's what I like. Dog fights. Yeah. I like fights where you don't know, you know, where the guys both want it. Usually these days, only one person kind of wants it. So it's good when you have two dogs in there that are going for the finish. Those kind of fights are the fights I want to see.
Yeah. Did you watch the card last night or yesterday? The London card?
No, I don't even know when that was.
Yeah,
I know it was on, but I've seen a few things. I've seen who fought Cajun. He changed his name, Cajun. Boy, Cajun fucking changed his name. They kept Cajun on there a few times.
Yeah.
I saw a few things. I saw a few fights on my phone. I think it was Fight Pass, right? It was on Fight Pass.
Yeah,
I seen part of the Verdun fight. I just saw, like, a lot of the highlights and stuff.
Okay. I was wondering if you saw the co-main with Manoa and Blachowicz, since you said you like the dog fights. Like, that was a hell of a scrap for 3 rounds.
How was that fight? Because I heard that, the Russian dude ever won.
Yeah, he won it, but it was like, I don't know, did you see the first fight? It was like, nobody wanted to see that matchup again after the first one. But then this one was, like, they were both swinging, like, the whole time. And it was just like, there was very, very little rest periods. And they were always swinging for the fences for 3 rounds. So
Nice.
It was exciting as hell. But,
what about Verdun?
He looked old. He looked old. He looked old. And
You think it's that time?
I mean, listen. I said right before the fight, I was like, I don't necessarily want Verdun to lose, but I want to see new names at the top of that heavyweight division because it's like there's top 5. We've seen the same matchups over and over. Like, how many times do you want to see, Mark Hunt, Overeem, Verdun? Like, how many times do you want to see that same like triangle going on? It's like we need some fresh blood up there. So I was glad. I wasn't glad that Verdun lost, but I was glad that we have a new contender at the top now.
Nice.
Yeah. So just like seeing things shaking up, like you plan on doing right this year, right?
Man.
Up that.
Man, they signed that line. Once they sign my contract, man, can't wait.
So you have it in your mind, like when you hope to have it signed by, so like you can get on a particular card, or
I don't know what's going on. I want to, people are talking about May. Like I said, there's a lot of big fights coming up. Maybe May, end of May. Who knows?
Will we see any events like will you be like in New York or Chicago? Any events coming up? Trying to get that contract and sign on that line behind the scenes.
I'm gonna start doing some more traveling now. I'm going to LA tomorrow. I'm gonna train with Brian Ortega.
Okay.
And some of those guys. I'm gonna start traveling a lot more. And we reached out to Endeavor, the people who do WME IMG turned into Endeavor, I want to say, talent agency.
Yes.
The tops. And we reached out to them, so we want to start getting a lot more, just be more involved. Be a lot more involved. They do a lot more things. Because now, because I beat Perry, so now it's my turn to, to take that role and, just make it happen. I want to do much as I can, much media, commercials, fucking everything. I want to do everything.
Hey, man, we support you, man. We definitely want you to come on whenever you sign a contract. Will you come back on the show for us?
Yeah.
And can you help us get T City on there? We've been trying to reach out to T City.
My man T City, yeah. He's picking me up from the airport tomorrow at 9.
Okay, so I can hit you up tomorrow then. We have
yeah, kids are serious about it. He's serious, man, for sure.
I appreciate you doing your homework on us, man. We've had everybody from Demetrius to Deontay Wilder on the boxing side. Do you watch boxing by chance?
I watch some of the boxing matches. I can't act like I'm some professional, I watch it when it's on.
Do you watch like the big names like the Earl Spences and the Deontay Wilders of the world?
Yeah, I watch them when they fight. He's a wild style. He'll be throwing. I don't know how it'd be working, but I don't know how his stuff be working like that, but
Speaking of, since we talk about boxers, what do you think about this craziness about Mayweather at 41 gonna jump in the octagon? I think CM Punk could beat him. Like they need to stop. What, they gonna have modifications to the rules? Like you can't kick, you can't take down. Like when you hear somebody like that, do you think it's funny or bring positive attention, or are you like some of these old school people that's like it's a mockery of the sport?
No, I'm not old school like that. It's not a mockery of the sport. If he wants to get paid, then let him get paid. But is Tyron really helping him?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's the question, man. It's funny because apparently we had Dewey Cooper on last episode, and he's one of the Mayweather trainers, and he said, listen, if Floyd is gonna do it, Floyd is gonna know what he's doing. So he's not gonna go in there with no wrestling game, no jiu-jitsu game. It's just kind of hard to believe.
At 41. At 41.
I don't know what, I mean, Dana's going to have it happen. I mean, it seems like it's going to happen because I did not believe the boxing match was going to happen. I did not believe that. And once that happened, I think, shit, anything can happen now.
Yeah,
but I don't know who they have him fight. I don't know.
That's the thing.
He can't act like he has good wrestling. You see the thing about being 7 out of 10?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I don't know what scale that is, like, relative to, but I don't know. I don't know what scale he's using, but, I mean, it could be a 7 on somebody's scale somewhere. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy times, man, for the sport. In a lot of different ways, but, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you get this contract signed, man, getting you back in there. I definitely noticed a lot of improvements in the fight against Mike Berry from that.
Thank you.
From that first time you were in the octagon. So, I mean, keep at it, man. I like your game. I like the way you fight. So, entertaining, doing cool news. So, get this contract signed, man. Get back to work.
Yeah, we definitely look for you to get back in, man. Trust me, if I'm at one of your fights, man, I'm going to let you know I'm in the house.
For sure. For sure.
and look forward to staying in touch with you, man. And thanks for balling, man. Like, hey, when you ball, you get the call. Let the people know what happens when you ball.
When you ball, you get the call. That's why we here, man. That's why we here.
There it is, man. Max, appreciate you coming on the show, my man. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you guys, man. I want to get my contract so we can start dropping these names and getting some of these guys smashed on. So I have a lot more to say once I could sign something.
Okay, well, we will have you on.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
You guys have a good day, man. I appreciate the call. Thanks for having me on the show, man. Straight up.
Well, one struggle that the UFC's having right now, it's the old men are understanding that they're old men. And what I mean by that is a lot of guys are not trying to give young prospects that opportunity because they're trying to remain in the top 10, trying to keep a certain check, trying to keep themselves in contention for a title. And part of me understands it, but the other part of me is like, how much of this is, you being a prize fighter and fighting, competing against whoever, There needs to be something in every fighter that says, how dare you walk around the street thinking that you're better than me. Most now that it's more like, okay, I'm trying to stay in this spot, so I'm going to be real selective between who my next fight's going to be, and sometimes you're seeing young prospects like a James Vick, like a Kamaru Usman. They're struggling to get that step-up fight because the older guys are conscious of, okay, this one's a little bit tougher. Can I get this guy? I'm going to hold out until I get this guy. Like, people who don't have titles are responding as if they have titles. They're saying, I'm not going to fight that guy. I'm waiting on this guy. And that is, in the end, that's going to hurt the sport more than it helps it. I understand what they're thinking. They just want that one shot. Because really, in today's day and age, and it's only going to get better, if you get a title shot, you do the right things, you should be able to walk away from this game a millionaire, off 2 fights. You win it and you defend it. Even if you lose the defense, you should be able to be pretty good financially between sponsors and between what your purse is. You should be at that period of time doing okay. So I understand how some people are holding off and waiting on that spot. But at the same time, another part of me is like, okay, the other thing that I see people struggle with is being a star and feel like they're being promoted and feel like they're being seen enough. But if you sit out for 6-7 months because you're waiting on a title shot, and then when you finally do fight, it's a performance that's not as great or isn't as stellar or isn't what people wanted, but you got your hand raised and you feel entitled to an opportunity at the title, you're not making a good case for yourself as a star when this is all said and done. So I'll give you an example of a person who I think is doing it right. When Jacek was champion, whether you felt like she was a big star or not, I felt like she was trying to be a star. I felt like the way that she responded in interviews and the way that she kind of had this like bullying mentality in fight week, I thought that those were all things to sell herself. Now, whether or not you felt she was successful with it or not, it's it's always going to be person to person. But I thought that I feel like the attempt is there, and she fights regularly, and she fights every challenger, no matter who they are. You never really hear her say, "Okay, I would never fight this person again." You've never heard JTX say that before. It's she keeps fighting, and then she ran into a loss. But that's how the sport works. These guys, they're going against the elite every single time. At some period of time, it's not going to be your night. For all you know, JTX is champion again on the 6th, 7th of April. But the thing that I liked the most is I felt like in her time as champion, she made the most of it. She kept fighting and so on. There are some champions out there that are literally waiting on certain matchups because they feel entitled to them. I think I should get this. This fighter got this, and so on. What I was talking to Kendrick about the other day is every fighter thinks that they're Mike Tyson. No one thinks that they're Larry Holmes. A lot of you guys are Larry. A lot of you guys are good fighters that are not going to be superstars. You're just going to be really good fighters, and there's nothing wrong with that. You could still make a lot of money, but you can't turn around and get mad at the UFC because they didn't make you Mike Tyson, and they can make everybody Mike Tyson. They can't make everybody Mike Tyson. I don't believe that at all. I don't think that they can take any fighter and make them a superstar. I think some fighters have the gift in the way that somebody has Razak's type of KO power, and the way that someone's got DJ's creativity or Verdum's ground game. I just think some people are just born with it. So, I mean, if there's one thing I think that we need more of, that we saw the other night, more old stars have got to say, hey, I'm still on the top, watch me beat this young guy. Or more young guys have got to be like, hey, I'm on the scene now, I'm going to beat this old guy. We got to have this happen more.
Tell me this, I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but don't some of this fall on Sean Shelby's shoulders? Because he don't do interviews, he don't talk to nobody, so I'm going to put it out there. When Joe Silva was doing his job, we didn't have this problem, but now we have this problem. And from all my sources behind the scenes is he gives people opportunity and don't tell them like, hey, you need to fight or you're going to be parked for a few months. Like, there's no reason that you got people in multiple weight classes like Judo Thunder and James that should be in that situation if you really booking stuff the right way.
It's crazy because this is something that now that I work for Glory Kickboxing and I do a lot of the matchmaking, now that I do that, I realize just how hard matchmaking is. It is hard. And in the end, it's not that that Shelby isn't, saying, hey, fight this guy. I just think so many people are like, I'll sit. You know what I'm saying? I'll sit and not fight that guy. Wait till that guy gets something scheduled and then try to fight. It is a hard job. And Shelby's job, especially with the new TV deal coming, it gets harder with every year. With him and McMahon, with what they do, it gets harder in every year. Like more TV, more shows, more fight cards in general. You've got to try to find a wealth of these cards. Plus, they've got to do it with, champions being out. It's weird to think about it, and he's got nothing scheduled. But Tyron Woodley's going to go on a year without fighting. Like he's got, as of right now, he's not scheduled for of course, he's not scheduled for Brazil, and that's in May, and he's not scheduled for Chicago, and that's the 9th of June. So the next time he'll fight is in July, and I think last year he fought at the end of July or early August, one of those two. So it's a year for him. Conor McGregor was the champion, so now we're looking at, he hasn't fought in, who knows how long, year and a half, 2 years. So he's gone, so now they're finally putting up his actual title.
They haven't yet officially either, which is still crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever, however they're trying to work that out.
Yeah.
And then Stipe finally came back and fought, but he hadn't fought for a big gap. It's tough for them to get all these new cards. All the champions want to be on pay-per-view for pay-per-view points, and they've got to try to figure out how to main event a lot of these cards. They got to try to figure out that some way. That's hard. Their job is hard, and clearly it's. We're also forgetting how much Dana White has pull in some of these situations. Dana White can also say, all right, I know you guys want to put this contender versus this contender, but I've got plans for this person in this area, so I can't make this fight right now. And that sort of thing comes up. What they do isn't just them making this person fight this person. There are so many things that they have to answer to when they make these cards. it's a difficult job. That's the only thing I'd say in their defense, because I do it. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that I was doing it for glory, I can't tell you enough how much this person wants to fight this person thinks that they're worth this, and it is a very, very difficult job.
Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that's frustrating for a lot of people, especially the matchmaker. I mean, I think there's a picture somebody tweeted out not too long ago of Mick Maynard sitting at an event, like he was at some event or at like weigh-ins or something, whatever it was, backstage. But Mick Maynard had a laptop up with some fights on, and like on his iPad or his tablet here, and he was on the phone like all at the same time. I'm like, man, this dude, that's a real struggle right there to try to pay attention to all these guys in the local scenes, like in your regional promotions, trying to get that call up, trying to pay attention to people here, and there's a lot to it. And I definitely don't envy like their job at all. But
and don't forget, there's also people like me that email and say, "Hey, get my guy at this card." My guy. Just the other day, my fighter Victor Rania, he's 10-3. He just got out of his Combate Americas contract. He stopped the guy before. He beat an undefeated guy, and he stopped the guy before that. I saw they're doing a Chile guard. We've got our passport. I got a guy who's good looking and bilingual. Get us on that card. Here I am sending emails, and he replied to me that day, just saying, hey, I'll consider him for the card. But ideally, and Joe Silva was good about it too. Like, they replied to every email. Don't forget, that's also involved. There's also people who've got guys in the outsider that are trying to get into the UFC. So there's a lot to the job.
Yeah, no doubt.
On the women's scene, I know you're cool with ABC. How do you think she stacks up with Mackenzie Dern? And what do you think about this Mackenzie Dern hype train? Did you see her post? I guess I'm one of the few people that's not impressed. Like, she's a cute lady. She got some great jiu-jitsu, but she's not a mixed martial artist. And sooner or later, somebody's going to catch her with something she don't see, and she's going to be looking up in the lights. It's just a matter of time.
Give it time. That's the biggest thing, is just give it time, and there's okay to have losses on the way. It's for her. The reason why I think a lot of people struggle with this one was because I believe I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Yoder, yeah. I believe when this fight was put together, people were thinking, okay, tailor-made for you to go out there, hit Yoder with some shots, take her down, and submit her. Like, that's what was brought in. But Yoder has been tough in a lot of her fights, and she does a lot of good things as a fighter. It's just as she's learning and growing, it's about putting that complete performance together. But that was very much in doubt before that last takedown.
Oh, yeah.
So my big thing with Dern is just give it time. She's 24, and who knows who she'll be when she's 27. And that's what I said, working with Montana Stewart. It's, Montana fought a lot of fights in a very short period of time, and she ran into some losses. But, I'd always say, I was like, okay, you're 20 years old. Wait until you're 24. Wait until you're 25. Like, that version of you will just get better the longer you do this game. So for Dern, let's see what happens down the road. Clearly, she has two things going for her. She has the right kind of, I guess, I don't know if I call it the right kind of aggression, but she does have the right fight aggression. So if it comes to an exchange, she's not shying away. She just bites down her mouthpiece, or sometimes doesn't bite down her mouthpiece, and just starts swinging for the fences. As she starts to get better, for me, it's like, when you really get good at striking, it's the same as touching the wall. You're going to touch the wall when you reach your hand out. When you get really good at striking, when you land a strike, when you throw a strike, you're not trying to score it. You're going to score it. You see it. Until people develop that, they swing at a target. So they say, the target's there. I'm going to swing at this target until I get it. As you're learning and growing and developing, that's the thing that you got to figure out. That's the thing. And it happens the longer you do it. Sometimes you're like, okay, I can't get there with a straight shot, but if I throw wide in the direction of their head, something's going to land. And then that gets people thinking, okay, if I start landing these, I'm good at striking. And that's not necessarily being good at striking. That's just you were able to score a strike. But when you figure this game out, like a Jose Aldo, like a Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson, when you figure this game out, you're looking at targets and you're hitting them. You're hitting them because you see that they're there to hit. You don't have to. No one has to tell you. No coach calls it out. You just get it. So that doesn't develop in everybody, but give her the chance to see if that's what she can become 2-3 years down the road. Maybe it happens for her. Other parts of her game have to be developed. She will go a whole fight where she has 17 bad takedown attempts, and then she'll have one perfect takedown entry. She'll get. So it's like, as she learns and grows, one day that 17 takedown attempts turns into 8 takedown attempts. She just figures it out. So that's kind of what the growth of this game is. Now, again, 17, that's hypothetical. I'm just saying that's how this works. This sport works. And, again, what was she, 5-0, 6-0 going into the UFC? It happens quick in the women's game. You get yourself 5-0, 6-0, you're in. ABC, I think her record might be 500 or maybe one fight under 500. But like, she's good and strong. She had the great run in The Ultimate Fighter, and her boxing is pretty solid. She throws mean, and if Dern wants to start throwing those wild shots and running at her, ABC will catch her, like for sure. Like, she's good enough to catch her. So it's just, for her, it's just about making sure she keeps it on the feet, and if she goes to the ground, not to panic in those spots. Just to work yourself up. I thought that I feel that she can score good offense against a lot of the fighters in the division. She will be able to hit Dern because Dern is hittable. But the win and loss is just going to come on fight IQ and patience and not panicking when a bad thing happens to you. If you get put on the cage, don't panic. If you get taken down, don't panic. Your opportunity will come. Perfect Volkov, perfect example. We've used him several times. He did not panic when he went to the ground. He just worked there. Just stayed. He said, my moment will come later, and it came later. So if ABC stays patient, the opportunities will come up, and fights start on the feet.
Now we get into something. One, this is a two-part question. One, why do people in MMA call out sequences where somebody can figure them out? It's like doing signs in baseball. I've absolutely have never understood that. And two, I'm starting to lean to her to be the fighter of the year, male or female. Why don't people take something like our girl Cyborg and take their stuff to another level? Like you kind of said, the evolution of a striker. She went from a great striker to like a legendary striker by training with legit boxers, add that into her game, and she can cut off the cage, unlike 95% of fighters, male or female, on top of her just being a beast. Why don't more people take a pace out of that and break that? It's like she humbled herself by going to the Carissa Shields and training with her, and like, hey, I know I'm not going to be able just to come out and just knock everybody out in 2 minutes, and now she's on a whole other level and laughing at these girls. How come more people don't take a pace like that? It's like it makes too much sense. They can't do it.
What was the first part of the question?
The
you said
calling out stuff. I have never understood that you're a coach. Why people call out, hey, judo, fada, they be calling out the combinations. Like, this person's not a good enough fighter to do that stuff on their own. Because I know it's like, I've been ringside by a Conor McGregor fight. They don't be doing that for him. He still be getting people out of there. But a lot of these people like ATT and my boy Favorite do all that stuff. That seems so old school. And when you get some people on these elite levels and these sick athletes, they're going to catch on to that. Because I know John Jones, when he was coming up, he could decode people's stuff and know what's going to come up. Why do people do that? Like, they don't be telling people, hey, Deontay, 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't do that in boxing. Like this, I know it's a different sport. It doesn't make any sense. It's like telegraphing what you're doing.
For me, I usually do that work in the gym. Okay, what my calls are going to be, they're usually going to be in the gym. I had a wonderful opportunity when I was in a team takedown to learn with Mark Lehman, learn from him. And he was all about secrets and codes and so on, probably a little bit more than I'd ever be. But being from him, I understood, okay, we need to have different calls for certain things. For me, for the most part, I will only yell something to get you to be active in a certain area, more so than I'll yell a specific strike. I have yelled them. Like there are periods of time where I'll call something out. Well, if I talked about it and I didn't see it, there might be a time where I'll remind someone. They're like, all right, this is the particular strike. But for the most part, I would say 80% of the time, 85% of the time that I'm coaching, I usually just remind someone to do something that we worked on. So I'll yell something like, and it changes every fight, but I could say, back to your axe, which just means back to your low kick game, like something to that, most of the time with Razak, we've already worked everything out. So usually I just tell him to be patient and throw clean. Because if you get somebody hurt, Razak usually is, a lion and a gazelle, like he's ready to, it's gone. He's not being technical. Whereas this past fight, I didn't have to yell anything like that out. I mean, it was already clean. I will do things as far as defensive rhythm. Definitely call those things out. Feigning, level changing, call that stuff out. If you're not seeing that in the corner, this is my advice to other coaches. I'd call that out. But specific strikes, both people are listening. And I remember we were talking about it in the corner where when we fought Hamasi the first time, Tony Cabello had started yelling some things out, and then Hamasi started to do them as Tony was yelling them, as if Tony was his coach. And then after we talked about it, we were like, hey, he kept listening to every call that was made, and he would do them as we were calling. So the next time we came out, we barely called any of that out, and we just walked around and just looked for offense, and we wanted Hamasi to try to figure things out when things weren't being yelled. So it went, of course, we got the game plan for the same guy twice. It's always going to be, different. But I think that some people call it out because they're not seeing it and they worked on it and they want to remind the fighter to do it. Not so much like a video game where they're like, all right, do this when I call it. It's usually too late. You're not going to see that at an elite level. So give it, critique fighters and coaches based on experience. Sometimes when it's someone's first fight in the UFC, you might see that call a lot more. They're a little bit nervous. They got to work through that part. So you might see them call something specific a little bit more, but you'll be rare to see, Henry call something like that out to Edgar, right. Edgar knows, he knows what he's doing. So there's a progression to it, but I do agree, you get to the highest level, calling out things specifically, it's an advantage to the opponent. Now, as for the other part, what you're saying about Cyborg, you and I were talking about it the other day, I felt like Cyborg won her initial fights off of physicality. So the first big win and, the first huge fight in women's mixed martial arts is, of course, Carano versus Cyborg. Mm-hmm. In that fight, most people don't realize this, Carano is pretty strong, too. Yes. And in those moments, Cyborg came and tried to goon Carano on the ground, and Carano threw her on the ground and ended up on top. And it happened twice. So if you don't believe me, go rewatch that fight. She tries to goon Carano on the ground, and twice Carano ends up on top. Like, she's able to get back to those spots. But that's one of those fights where I look at body language, and I wondered if Carano was a little nervous going in. Like, she looked a little different for me. That's just from my coach's eye. If I were to compare two fights with her in the corner, I felt it was a little bit different. But moving forward, I really thought that Carano, when she lost that fight, she lost to a Cyborg that was just super, super physical. Just came out, I know I can take your punch, I'm stronger, you're already afraid of me before the fight began. So you take that version of her to the version now, all of a sudden I started to notice her ability to counter a jab just went through the roof. Like, if you throw a jab out, she hits you a good majority of the time with the power right hand. Not a clean score, a power score. Not just, okay, got you. It's you're in trouble right after it lands. So when Yana came out and threw the jab, and then right away the first shot comes over the top and scores big, that completely messes up your whole everything. It's famous, Tyson, everyone's got a plan till they get hit. It's the hit that matters. It's not that you got punched. It's the way the hit, the level of the score that really makes someone change. So Cyborg, between the coaching change, went through a divorce. I'm sure that kind of comes into play too, to go from having that person in your ear all the time to a different coach, to the Clarissa Shields situation, which I brought up heavily when it first happened. You just got to have more of it. Whenever I see someone go over to Holland to just get kickboxing in, I think really highly of that kind of stuff because you're seeing the highest level of it. You're seeing it. Daniel Cormier, he brings in kickboxers. You want to see what does it look like when you go against the highest form of this. So when you go against the mixed martial arts form of it, which is usually a collaboration of a whole bunch of different arts that you've been picking up in your training camp and the striking product that you put out there, it is all based off of the work that you put in when you get there. So Aldo, let's use perfect, Jose Aldo. Jose was the champ for a really long time. Jose humbled himself and went over to Holland and he trained with Andy Sauer. And I'm sure there were some days where Andy had a lot of success with him, and then there were some days where he got some moments on Andy. I'm sure that's how striking works, that's how sparring works. But he then goes into his fights knowing, I've seen the highest level of kickboxing. What are you going to do? So you get Clarissa Shields working with Cyborg, and then she goes out there and goes against Yana. And I'm like, what are you going to do in the feet, Yana, that she ain't seen? She's seen the highest level of this in a bigger physical body. Like she's, because Clarissa Shields is a good-sized woman. She's bigger than Cyborg. Yeah. So it's like you've seen the highest level in the strongest physical package, and now you're going to go there and fight someone smaller. And they're going to be fighting behind the whole time. You can only game plan so much. And they did. Yana went to that spot, that same spot that Holly Holm went to. The double unders with her chin underneath in the upper chest to force Cyborg on that was the same thing that Holly Holm did. She got her to that spot, and Yana was able to do it because Cyborg's strong, but you're starting to realize with Yana and with Holly Holm, she's not that much stronger than all the other girls. She might be stronger, but not that much stronger. And Holly Holm looked her equal as far as physical strength goes. But where they got was a leverage position, and they were able to get to those spots. But the moment separation was happened, or once she got free of Yana, and it came time to, okay, who's going to land the strikes to win the scores that are going to win rounds, it was so clearly in Cyborg's favor. I felt like Cyborg could land every strike. Like, that's what I felt watching. I was like, okay, whatever Cyborg throws is going to work. So the version of her now is much more skilled, much more, a lot more precise with where the shots land. She almost never throws wide. She throws clean, effective shots, and she's looking at a target, and she's, as I said before, it's like walking over and touching the wall. That's what she's doing when she's out there. So I'd like to see more of it. I do it with Razak. I remember when he was still moving up, we went out to England and we went to Bad Company Gym, and that's where Liam Harrison and Jordan Watson are. They're really well known in the Muay Thai kickboxing community. And I went there as a coach to humble myself to learn from Richard Smith. I was like, hey, you're a guy who you're out here in Leeds, England, which, unless you know the country, most people don't know of Leeds, but I knew who they were, and I went out there and I just humbled myself and I learned from him. I'm going to post video in a couple of weeks. I went to Thailand and I'm hitting pads with one of the Thai coaches. I just go ahead and humble myself and say, hey, get me better. I want to be growing and learning in this all the time. I go to boxing gyms. I ask questions. I think some coaches feel like it means you don't know it if you ask for help or if you ask to learn from somebody. I don't feel that way at all. I feel like when I was a student in school, if I didn't know something, I'd ask the question and I'd get an answer. If someone did something that I liked, I'd ask them how they did it. Now, as a coach, that's the mentality that I take. I always want to be learning. I always want to be a student, no matter how much that I'm coaching. So I feel like I give my athletes the advantage if I sit down with every single person and say, okay, I think this will really, really work. There was a Russian boxing team out there in Thailand when I was there. So I sat down and just watched this. I was like, hey, can I watch your class? Sat down and just watched them teach. Watched them teach. I came and I brought it back to my athletes right away. That's what I think gets me better as a coach. So I like when I see someone like Aldo go work with Andy Sauer in kickboxing, someone like Cyborg go work with Clarissa Shields. Johnny Hendricks, we worked with a lot of pro boxers before he fought. It's just humble yourself and get better. I'm not sure how many people are going to do it because, again, it does mean admitting that someone might know something better than you in a certain area.
That fighter ego gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, but I've got no problem with it. I want to be the best coach in the world, and I'm going to learn from someone everywhere I go, I always want to learn from someone. So that's just kind of how I am.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed you linked those videos that you did with the little kickboxing. Was it 7-part series you did with the documentary that you linked it?
Yeah.
I saw you link it on Twitter, responding to someone. I forget who you were responding to, but you threw the link in there. And I sat back and watched all of it, man. That's amazing stuff, and it just shows exactly what you were talking about, your willingness and your curiosity to just absorb as much about the world of kickboxing and pretty much any martial art, I guess, as well. So it's that was really cool. If you guys haven't seen that, it was on Vimeo, right? I believe.
Yeah. So my documentary series, Shin on Shin, 2011, kickboxing was kind of down, and I made a documentary series, and it was going to be in 3 parts. I'm still going to do the other parts. Please forgive me. But at that period of time, the K1 World Grand Prix, that's like the Super Bowl for kickboxing. And K1 got into financial trouble, and then they didn't have it, and then people were down on it. Kickboxing's dead. All this other kind of stuff was popping up, and I wanted to make a documentary to show people that kickboxing was still healthy. And this was before Glory had emerged. By the time I was done, Glory had came on the scene, and Rico Verhoeven had just won the title. So for those who watch it, you'll see it kind of go from Gokhan Saki talking about how there was no kickboxing opportunities, and he wanted. So I started the video then, and then as you go through the series, it talks about young stars. Iman Barlow is 19, 20 in the video. She's now 23, 24. She's one of the best fighters in the world. As I said before, Rico Verhoeven, he wins the world title towards the end of it, and of course Rico is still the champion right now. It just was something Snowden had asked about. He asked someone could.
Snowden, you were playing.
Yeah. Yeah, he asked someone could give him a document or a book about the beginning of kickboxing.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I will be all day trying to answer this question.
Yeah.
That's your wheelhouse.
Yeah. I remember now. He asked something about, trying to find out some more information. You were like, a lot of these answers are in here. Just go dive in. And I was like, hey, you weren't talking to me, but I'm going to dive in. I'm not going to do anything else. So I dove in, and it was interesting, man. I definitely encourage anybody listening to this, go check that out. It was really cool.
For sure, and that's what I want. That's what I made it for. The whole video is for charity. If you get to the last one, there was a lot of natural disasters happening in the world at that time. Japan had one, and there was a tsunami, of course, before that in Asia and Southeast Asia. So it's like when I did it, I was like, okay, I'll do this for charity, all out of my pocket. It cost me like $8,000 to do most of it travel, but when I did it, even then, I would just sit down and watch a class. So I'm at Mike's gym, and I just sit down and learn from Mike for a while, ask Mike questions, and then I get to, do the interview with him afterwards. Romy Bonjowski was my hero, when I was coming up in kickboxing. So I get to sit down and I get a really long conversation with him, and he answered everything. Romy Bonjowski is the man. He sat down and answered every question, good or bad, everything about his history, everything about fighting. He was my guy. So he answered everything full, but I got to watch him teach a class before that. So every step of the way, I'm watching these elite guys, and I'm in the back, and I'm watching them all work. And even that documentary was an opportunity for me to learn from people. So definitely check it out if you guys get a chance. I might post them all on Twitter again here in a second, because I was surprised at how much traffic I got once, because Snowden's got all those followers. Mm-hmm. So I was surprised that the traffic just popped right up. People started messaging me. He's like, I really liked your documentary. So that was real cool to hear.
Hey, I remember the ads since we got you on Skype. You gotta have that picture of you falling out with Johnny got robbed behind you, man. That's a classic picture of Kid Folk MMA. So say that we Kid Folk iconic moments.
No, the room that I'm in, me and my wife, we were buying a new house. So this is the house that she was in when we got married. So I was renting at my house, so I moved in here. So the things that are on the wall were things that were on the wall before I got here. So I'm never conscious of that sort of thing. Maybe I should probably get that one, because you learn a lot. Since then, I've been desensitized to anything,
Yeah. Do you really know, before do you have a system, regardless, if it's not a KO, even if you're a guy, just to thoroughly whoop somebody's ass, you look just to make sure, regardless if it's before they announce it to us, do you have a way of knowing that you're close by? Or can you like
Well,
look over like this buffer hold his car a certain way so you can take a peek without anybody knowing but you?
Well, I'll go ahead and answer that by saying if there is a system, I'm not going to tell. But like, I'll I will say that I'm never confident anymore, even when I'm like, I know that we scored the most. I just wait till I hear the decision, because there was, I thought when we were in Sweden that, even though we didn't take a lot of scores, I thought that we were taken down enough whenever we were scoring offense that the judges were probably going to go against us at minimum 2 rounds to 1. And then when they read the cards and we got a split, I remember my jiu-jitsu coach looking at me like, wait a minute, like what's going to happen here, because when it was on the feet, Razak was landing the power shots, but the guy kept getting the takedowns. And when he got the takedowns, he was just laying guard. So even in the 3rd round, he actually was in a position where he could pass the full mount, and he just laid there, and then Razak got the reversal. So in those moments, I still thought we'd lost because the guy was on top most of the time. But when they went to the cards, it was like, there was a split. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I just never feel confident with these. So do my best to just make sure we score the cleaner offense and wait for them to make the call. And it's worked out for me for the most part, but not always.
Yeah, it's in this landscape of MMA when there's so many different rules, different rule sets, 4 different combinations of rule sets and replays, depending on the city and state you're fighting in, it's kind of ridiculous. But, I guess that's one thing you can't really get hung up on. You just have to pray for competent judging. Hope you don't see Adelaide Bird sitting across across the octagon from you, looking at what's going on. But
I'm going to ask you guys a question.
Go for it.
What did you think of the stoppage with Emmett and sorry, I'm just having a mental lapse here. Stevens. Yeah. The reason why I ask is Stevens had said that he thought he was throwing a legal knee. There's language that they tell us now in the back, and I've heard it a couple times now. They use the term weight bearing. Mm-hmm. If your hands are on the mat, it used to be an illegal strike, right. But now your hands just touching and it's not weight bearing. You can strike, just of course depending upon the state. They'll explain that in the back. Yes. For me, weight bearing is really, really confusing to understand live. Yeah, like just personally, like just I'm just going off my. So I'm wondering, you guys as guys who watch the sport, what are your thoughts on that? Because I've never really known personally. When I hear it, I just go, okay, put it in your mind. Try not to have this happen. And I still teach my guys to pull them up. I have techniques that we use if a guy's leaning like that to try to pull them higher to score offense rather than keep them lower. But what is your thoughts on that rule? Because that is, to me, live, that's confusing.
Yeah, for me personally, it's frustrating because it's just one of those weird areas where it just creates an opportunity for a lot of confusion. I would rather not see that rule there, period. Like, let's just eliminate this particular sequence of events from happening by saying, okay.
All these are
what'd you say?
All good. All these are good.
I mean, yeah, like, especially like in that thing, where we saw the crazy thing with the hand placement thing, like playing the hand game. Like, they're trying to eliminate it, and it was still kind of there. Like, just take away that whole deal because it's like, again, like, there's so many different rule sets, right? We're kind of changing over. Some people are using unified rules. Some people are not using unified rules. So it's like you're creating unnecessary confusion. Like, let's just take it out and let's let the fight play out as it should. Because some of these guys, like, if you're the guy in the defensive position there, it's like, depending on how you're training, week in and week out in the gym, all right, can I stay in this spot with my hands on the mat and think I'm good for a second while I think about my best method of escape? Or if this was like a street fight where we know there's no rules, you're going to immediately do whatever you can to get out of that position to, like, you don't have that second thought type of moment to where you're like, okay, what's the best thing I can do here within the rules? Or how can I game the rules to my favor in this position?
Yeah, that's the Chris Weidman thing. We saw how that worked out for him.
Yeah.
But for me, the weight bearing thing, I think, as you said, is very vague. If you see, he fell in that position because of the damage. So there was no weight bearing. Him getting caught is why he was in that position. So his weight wasn't down. It wasn't like he was like a clinch or something, or they shoved him for positions. He firmly planted. His body and momentum caused him to be in that position from getting caught and taking those shots. Therefore, there was no weight bearing.
Well, even that, like his knee was.
He didn't even really glance at him, really. So I don't see what the big controversy. I'm so mad. That was a knockout already. And I'll go a step further. This whole matchups make fights. I think people don't look at it. When styles make fights, like you saying, people saying boxing. People don't realize that. Like I like to see Stevens and T City for the simple fact T City starts out slow, and he gets turned against Stevens, ain't gonna be no comeback like he's done in the past.
I mean, we'll see, because it's. I mean, that's why they do the fights. I'm a big fan of T City's skill set. He does things on the feet that I really like. He was brought up by a boxer, so he's got more of a mind for exchanging and rolling and fighting in the pocket. And I always feel that the most elite fighters can fight in the pocket. So we'll see. And as good as Stevens is, I mean. I think that savvy guys can still have success with him. But right now he's just on a tear, and they are matching him up appropriately. That's the other side of it. People are, if you get on Sean Shelby about not making elite guys fight other elite guys, be sure to praise him for making sure he goes, all right, big hitter go against other big hitter. Because they've been doing a great job of that. Like they have, Choi and all the kind of matchups that Steven's getting, he's on a roll. But he should note that there's not a lot of, Nick Lintzes in that streak. You know what I'm saying? He's not getting a lot of aggressive wrestlers. He's getting styles that make for entertaining TV. So we'll see, but that's why they make the fights. And maybe you're right. Maybe Stevens scores something and gets him in trouble, and he never gets back into it. But maybe Steven scores something, goes in for the kill, and the next thing you know, he's caught in something. Because when we've seen T City go for a sub so far, those guys are stuck. They are locked in. They are not. You're not seeing a lot of scrambles to get out of it. You're not seeing people do whatever techniques they usually do to get out of subs. They're stuck.
Yeah.
So
don't let that guy get a hold of anything, and because he's taking it home with him, no doubt. But yeah, man, Steve, always good stuff for me, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate you coming on again to share some knowledge, some in-depth knowledge that you always bring.
Always got us learning, man.
Yeah, it's always a lesson. It's a lesson sitting here and taking in what you're rapping to us. So
for real.
Absolutely. What do you think?
I would definitely be in touch, man. Steve be helping a producer out, man, trying to help us get Valentina and ABC on the show, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'll definitely. I said that I was, and I got away from it, but I will.
I went going there, man. You're good.
You're fine. You're fine. So tonight, I will go ahead and make the connection through Facebook with Roger Allen. That's Valentina's manager. That's something I can do pretty easily. So I've known Valentina. I've known her manager for a long time. So definitely you want to get the future champ on because. And he'll tell you, and I have it in digital writing that I said that if UFC had a 125 division, Valentina would dominate all because she fought Muay Thai at 130. Like she was the world champion, like 8 years in a row. She won at IFMA, so that was where she was dominant. And when she came to my gym, she weighed 142. So I was like, oh, you fight at 135? She doesn't cut, she just. All she does is miss a meal and do a run, but you've never seen a video of her in sweats, with the sauna suit on, like you've never seen that before. No. I knew that this would be something that she could do. So when the division came about, my first thought was, if Valentina doesn't, win the title, at 135, she could win it at 125 and then go back up and win it at 135 because she's a special kind of athlete, a special kind of strong. And I'd say she threw more that when the Brazilian girl came at her, I felt like Valentina right out the gate, landed 7 of 9 shots right away. And when something like that happens so quick and you see the speed, and I'm like, okay, it's really tough to beat her already, but if you can't hurt her, it's going to be even worse. You know, if you can't land a big shot to help you, it's going to be really, really difficult. So they can go ahead and schedule that now. Put that belt on her.
Yeah, she is the uncrowned champion right now. It's just going to be a matter of time, and I definitely agree. When I was out there in Austin, man, she was walking around, and everybody was treating her like she was the one rocking that gold belt already. So, you know, we'll see it very soon, I think.
For sure, and she won't. I mean, it won't go to her head. She puts the work in. This is what she does. She trains and she shoots guns. Like, this is what she does all the time. You know.
Her Instagram is nothing but training and guns, and posting where she's at.
That's what person you do not want to make mad.
Yeah, exactly. But once again, Steve at Steve the Warman Wright on Twitter. People out there, go give him a follow. If you're gonna be posting those links again, I think that'd be a good deal, so everyone can see that documentary again about the kickboxing scene over there. Man, that's some good stuff. Kendrick, you need to watch that, man. It's amazing. But yeah, we appreciate the time, man. We'll holler at you again here pretty soon, I'm sure, to get you back on and throw some more knowledge at us.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll do my best to use my connections to get the people more interviews.
Beautiful. We appreciate it, man.
Yep. God bless, fellas.